Thank you very much for your presence and potential interest in this topic. Welcome to this live and virtual event, because of course we have now the chance again to be physically present, but unfortunately some persons didn't have the chance to be physically here, so they are remotely accessing and following this session. The topic today for this session is actually testing innovation, and more precisely the developed 5G innovation platform. As a reminder, for those who don't know it yet, Telindus is the historical IT service provider in Luxembourg, which has been acquired by the PXS Belgium group in 2015. And afterwards, Tango, which is the second mobile operator in Luxembourg, followed the same merge and acquire strategy of the Proximus group. And so Tango is indeed more known for residential customers or private usage, and Telindus is indeed more related to enterprise operated services. Before starting, let me introduce myself. So my name is Aurélia Barish. I'm actually account manager for many years at Telindus. And I'd like to remind to you something, that this session is not supposed to be a standard PowerPoint presentation, but rather interactive discussion, so an open discussion. So please feel free to challenge us and to ask all questions you might have related to this topic. So regarding the panel we have today, I don't know if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so let me introduce directly the panel. So on my right side, we have Eva Gram. Eva is actually Digital Business Development Manager within Codit Luxembourg. So Codit Luxembourg is a major pillar within Telindus in Luxembourg. And she has a strong background indeed in all related to data management, IoT, Microsoft Azure, and so on. On the right side from Eva, we have Hugues Dirnon, which is Head of Telecom Solution at Telindus Luxembourg. And unfortunately, Philippe Soutard, which is our Belgian colleague, he was not able to join physically, so he should be remotely. Okay, you can see him on the smaller screen above. So Philippe is actually hello, Philippe. Philippe is the product manager of 5G innovation platform enterprise. So Philippe, we can see you. You can't see us, and I think it's better for you, because then you won't be impressed by the 2,000 or 2,500 people in front of me right now. So sorry for that. So that was regarding the panel. Perfect. Next slide. Yes.
Okay, you want to start this? Let's start with the vif du sujet, as we say in French. So basically today we are here to speak about the innovation platform from Telindus, which is based upon the 5G network. And basically 5G is not the one driving the innovation, but it's the technology who makes the innovation possible now. And what we will see is that either it's a new technology, but it's an evolution, and in the same time it's a kind of a revolution, because now things which were possible will become in the near future. So maybe a few words about the 5G first. So we'll go to the next slide to give in a nutshell, for the one who doesn't know yet, the major differences and the major, let's say, advantages of the 5G in comparison to the former mobile and Wi-Fi technologies. So first of all, the 5G will propose much more broadband and much more speed. So we will be able to go up to 1 gig or even more than 1 gigabit per second in download speed. Of course, it depends on the usage on the network and so on. So, but surely it's about 10 times, even more, 20 times the current speed of the 4G network. The second thing is about the latency. So it will be really low latency. The latency, for the one who doesn't know, it's about the time it takes for the information to travel. So it's not about the quantity of information travels, but it's about the time it takes to reach the other side and to allow the real-time reaction. The third point is about the massive connectivity. It means we are able to connect much more devices than previously with the previous technology, so up to 1 million devices per square kilometer. And the very last difference with the former technology is the network slicing. In the future, we'll be able to give quality of service to different kind of vertical, different needs. We will be always able to meet some specific service level requirement, like specific latency, specific bandwidth availability. Even if the network is crowded, the people who get a slice will always get the same quality of service. That being said, 5G is not everywhere present. It will never be everywhere present because you have some physics which prevents the waves to travel easily from one point to the other, and therefore sometimes we are asked to develop what we call a mobile private network, which basically gives the reliability which is today not available on a public network. It's not only about reliability, but it's also about security. If it's a private network, we are then able to guarantee that the data will not leave any specific geographical area from the factory, for example. We are able to make local breakout and so on. Philippe will speak maybe a bit more about that later on. So maybe on the next slide, we'll see several information related to the private network. So basically, in a nutshell, is what I'd say. So I don't know by heart that all the slide content, so forgive me for that. But in end effect, mobile private networks allow the end user or the company who needs such a solutions to be the master of all the chain, including the connectivity and the wireless links. For that, you need, of course, telecom network competencies, and that's where Proximus and Telindus will play a role, because we are able to operate that network for you, even if it's dedicated on a remote site, and we don't need to have direct access. So maybe Philippe can give more info.
Sorry to interrupt. Thank you very much. It was quite clear, but I see just one question that popped up from the virtual audience. And indeed, if I'm not mistaken, in October 2020, we launched the first 5G in Luxembourg, right? And so the question is, where are we now, and when do you expect to have the same kind of coverage in Luxembourg as we have for 4G with 5G?
So this is basically organized by the local regulation. So when we bought the frequencies, we had a contract with the state, and we had to cover at least one city till end of last year, if I right remember. And we need to cover by end of 2022 the complete country on one of those frequency band which have been allowed and allocated from the Regulation Institute. So the full coverage should normally be expected by end of 2022.
Thank you. Philippe?
Okay, so if we talk about private networks, and if you would be interested in that, actually we see multiple flavors. And if you have already heard about private networks, you know probably it's coming up. We call it a network in a box, and it actually means that both your radios and the brain of the network, what we call the private core or the network core, will be at your premises. And so everything stays local. You have the maximum amount of security. You need to maintain your own network or have it as a managed services. And that's typically what's going on at this point in time in private networks and what has been delivered. But as Telindus and Proximus, we also see different flavors that our customers could use depending on their situation. And let me give you some examples. So imagine you have a large yard or a large outdoor facility, and they all are already covered with public coverage. Then you could go for another private scenario where you have a private core at your premises, but you leverage the public coverage that is already there and route that data locally. So that's why we call it local breakout. The data stays local and is routed locally towards your premises. So then you're still have your full data privacy, but you don't need to have the full cost of deploying your own radio and towers because that has a cost if it's already well covered by public coverage. And then as a last version, you could fully leverage the public network, but get a private slice over that public network in a certain location or even nationwide, depending on what you need. and alter the configuration of that slice according to what kind of traffic you want to send compared to the public network.
And Philip, this network slicing, sorry, if you can come back to the previous slide, so the point
Sure.
3. So just to better understand the point 3 network slicing, is it something we can compare to the SD1 technology? So actually to get the bandwidth, the connectivity, and to dedicate one part of this for a certain service? Is that a bit the same?
So let me talk a bit now about how 4G networks or 5G networks in general without slicing work. They're actually optimized. The configuration is optimized for everyone, every type of usage. So you have a gaming usage, but you have also industrial cameras, you have vehicles, you have all types of different traffics. And so the configuration on those antennas and the full network is a kind of best for all. Here you would get in a private way allocated bandwidth for you with certain guarantees on it, and you could also tune the configuration for your specific type of traffic. So that means that it's on your slice, that it's not a best for all, but it's actually tuned to what kind of traffic you want to send. And it could be that, for example, your traffic needs more low latency than speed, and we can tune parameters on that slice specifically for you. And that is what slicing actually is. It's a complete virtualization of every chain in a cellular network, so that you can get your guarantees and tune it the way you like it, or we can help you tune it the way you like it.
Thanks.
We have a question.
I'm sorry. Yes.
So then it means that if you have network slicing, is the kind of offer that you go to the customer? Is the kind of service that you offer different customers to different slices? Is it you will offer like that, or you will decide on site that who is more important to you? Or also for the local network, I wanted to ask, that means that you can have a certain plant can have its own network and then support the project itself. Did I understand correct?
Yes, and do you want to add something more technically? Or?
Yeah, basically there are several things. When we speak about a slice, if it's a slice dedicated to the country, so countrywide, it means the operator can somehow define himself the parameters which fits to the needs of the customer. And then we need to see from a technical perspective if everything is compatible with the rest, because we cannot give the same quality slice to everybody. If not, it becomes public for everybody. That's one point. The second thing is depend also on the use case. If it's a use case which is going abroad, you need to make sure that you have roaming agreement, which is not yet, let's say, currently in place, that the slice which are in Luxembourg will be the same in Belgium, Germany, or throughout the world. So there are still some work to be done in order maybe to define pre-standardized slices, in order to make sure that the use case of the customer will be the same or have the same experience in all countries. But the slice definition is something which is not yet completely standardized, and Philippe, you correct me if I'm wrong, but the standardization is going on, and the technical, let's say, means to do that, we need a standalone network. We can discuss that a bit later, and Philippe will give some further information about that. And this is not yet available at no places in Europe yet. We are working with our team, and we hope soon to be able to start the first data session on a standalone network, which is the first step in order to activate or to be able to activate the slicing features.
Indeed.
Philippe, did I say some things which are completely wrong? You can
No, not at all. It was spot on.
Okay, so maybe we can move forward. So the question about 5G, the question about the technology is something which is there for the telco operators, and that's our business. But basically, 5G is not for you, the innovation. So for the people who are running their own business, we need to see, and they need to evaluate if 5G is the missing key to enable the innovation which wasn't possible before. Question is, how are they able to figure that out? So there are a lot of questions which are open, and we need to discuss that together. So the slide is definitely too far, but I cannot read, so therefore I can just guess the questions. Is
First question, how to start such a project?
Voila, and so that's where we need to discuss all together. When I say all, is the different specific expert in the area of the innovation of the business of the customer. The question is with whom we need the right partner. So 5G is for the telco operator, but maybe we speak about logistics. The telco operator is not a specific partner in the logistic area. We need people who knows about that business. So there are a lot of questions which needs to be answered, and also how to make it happen. So we need to have this network somewhere available. Is it a local network? Is it a public network? These are questions which needs to be answered. But for sure, this kind of innovation cannot be done if we do stay separated.
Okay, thank you. How to gain experience on that? That's what will the investment be?
Basically, the answer of all the questions which are there are in that slide in order to generate the curiosity about what Proximus Group and Telindus has put in place, which is the innovation platform. That's basically the reason why we want to start and discuss with you and to present this tool, because we see it as a tool to enable the customers and the business entities to enable their innovation. So maybe we should go to the next slide, which explains somehow part of the answers. In a let's say co-creation model, Telindus and the different partners or customers, we need to evaluate what are the hurdles, what are the issues we are facing or the customer wants to solve, and how 5G, with the new added value it offers, can enable what was before and not possible. Of course, we don't do that alone. We need partners, we need a network, we need some technical enablers. We need to develop that solution together. And then we, after all, we together, especially with the customer, he needs to test if it meets his requirement, because it's not about the requirement of Telindus or about the 5G, but it's about the requirement of the end user or the end customer.
Thank you, Hugo. I just mentioned before, Eva Gram, indeed, a digital business development manager within Codit Luxembourg. So she belongs to the Center of Expertise of Proximus Luxembourg with Codit. Maybe for those who doesn't know Codit, so Codit is indeed also a company that has been acquired by the Proximus Group. It was initially a Belgian company, and Codit Luxembourg is actually an accelerator that supports Luxembourg companies in their digital transformation, combining data integration experience with cutting-edge Microsoft Azure expertise. And Codit offers customized cloud computing solution that goes beyond simply setting up data to make it work. With a deeper view in the business, Codit actually enables business to improve and accelerate and automate decision-making. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because indeed, as I already told you, we are an operator, but since we were an ICT service provider, and now the operator, there's still something missing. And the part that was missing is actually Codit, because Codit is one layer above and addresses indeed different use cases. And based on the expertise of Codit and of the use cases, we can make a benefit use of the 5G. That is actually very important to me. Philippe, next slide.
Okay, so let me talk a bit more about this innovation platform. So, like we said, we get a lot of questions about what is 5G, what does it entail, how can we use it, where to start, like you already mentioned. And then at the same time, you have that complex situation of, should I go for a private network or not for for example, my industrial company, what should I do, and yeah, where do I start in general? So those two topics come as questions from our customers quite often, and the innovation platform is actually our response. So let me tell you a bit more about the innovation platform, what it actually is. It's actually one of the biggest real 5G standalone private networks in both Belgium and Luxembourg. It's a 5G standalone and non-standalone network, and we'll talk a bit more about why that standalone part is important. It's actually the basis of all innovation. Also, slicing can only be done on full 5G standalone networks. It's actually standalone means that there is both new 5G antennas and a new 5G core, a completely new architecture for 5G compared to 4G to make all the new innovations work. That's why standalone is important. We deployed it on multiple frequency bands. We have it on multiple locations available, and now since recently also in the headquarters of Telindus, and our coverage map in both Luxembourg and Belgium is expanding monthly. And actually the intention would be for a customer to also leverage the innovation platform on their own location when the coverage expands, and we can bring the innovation platform to your own premises. You get a private-alike experience with this platform, while not having to invest yourself upfront. So if you want to consider a private network, there is quite a lot of investment to be done just to start. Here you can leverage and get a private-alike experience without having any big upfront cost. We have taken them on our sites to satisfy the needs of our customers. And one other key benefit is that since it is a completely separate 5G standalone network next to the public network, we can adopt new 5G technology because, again, 5G is a large denominator of different technologies. We can adopt that technology from the very moment it becomes available. While if you compare it on public networks in general, if new technology becomes available, it needs to be tested, validated, see that everything works perfectly 100% before it can be deployed, and even then it takes a few months to deploy it. Here we can adopt it for customers whenever it's available and start testing it and leveraging at that very moment.
So basically, Philippe, if I can comment, this is a platform which somehow speed up the time to market, because we are able to really fine-tune the 5G configuration as it's a side network. It's not the public network, and therefore we are able to play with that network in order to requirement from the different use cases we might meet. And in that case, we are not afraid of somehow making mistakes. It's not the public network, it's not the commercial network, so it means we are really having a tool which is dedicated to the innovation, and we should not be afraid to make novelties with that kind of solutions.
Indeed, because like you said, on a public network, we have a lot of SLAs with our customers, and we don't want to deploy something that might be still not fully ready. Here on the innovation platform, we can deploy whenever available and not have that same impact on our other customers. So we can deploy much faster whenever it becomes available.
All right. But so far we have spoken about this 5G innovation platform, which, as you might have understood, it's the core of a network, which is the central point. But the 5G and the innovation is not linked only to that core platform. To realize some new business model, you need to have a value chain which is much wider than only 5G. So we'll speak about sensors. You need to know what are the sensors which are related to your business. Are they available? Are they 5G compatible? Of course, there is a 5G network, which is basically our business. And in Proximus Group and in Telindus, we have the right experts to meet whatever requirement you might face. Then when the data have been sent and are in the network, we still need to send them somewhere and to process them. And that's where Codit will play a role with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and things which can be based in the cloud or edge cloud. We have different functionalities which are already implemented. And Codit are, let's say, the right data scientists, if I can call them like that, in order to to retrieve most of the value out of your data. And of course, everything which speaks about data and sensitivity and sensors, we need to have a secured approach. The security should not be an extra layer, it should be built in. In that case, we have also the competencies. And basically, the goal of the message here is to say, with Telindus here in Luxembourg, you have a company which somehow can propose different ways of doing your innovation, and we have the right competencies to help you achieve your targets. Maybe some word of Codit, if you want.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really about having that data go to work and leverage on the data, predict things, and put that data to work, and not only collecting it, because we have tons of data stored everywhere. In different places, it's about connecting applications, connecting APIs, have that intelligence put on that, working on with the sensors and other devices out there, whatever it can be to measure, and then to analyze that in predictive mode also to make the world much smarter, basically. This is what Codit wants to achieve with the data management that we're doing. And we have a couple of cases that we will present later.
Thank you, Eva. So in a nutshell, we presented so far the innovation platform. We present so far the competencies and the whole ecosystem which is needed to do the innovation, but maybe what we want to see also, what did we do already with the presentation? And let's maybe move to the next slide, and I give you the floor, Aurélien and Philippe.
Yes, thank you very much. Before going ahead with that slide, one question from my side. I understand 5G is the future. We are investing a lot in it. But what about 4G? Does it mean we are stopping investing in that connectivity? Are we going to decommission it tomorrow? Or can we reassure the people, the audience, that indeed both network will still be available for a certain time?
Yeah, good question. Basically, so far, the 4G network is there and is present almost everywhere in the country. We continue to invest in that network because that's the most deployed network, which gives today the right bandwidth which is needed for a lot of people. I think everybody has experienced the drama of the Facebook outage yesterday evening. So everybody will remember that Facebook is coming also via the mobile phones. So 4G for sure will remain at least for the next 5 to 10 years because the life cycle of such a network technology is about 20 years. So for sure we will continue. But where we have an issue with the 4G is that we have more and more people connecting. We have more and more data traveling all around the network, and therefore we are reaching the network capacities. And we need more capacity to be pushed to the end users. And that's also one of the reasons 5G is needed, because bandwidth is needed in order to transmit the data that everybody requires. And of course, we continue investing in 4G, and in parallel, we develop the network of the future, which is happening today.
Very clear. Thank you very much. And I think for all of us who took the car this morning to arrive here, we all noticed that indeed the highway isn't bigger, but we have more and more cars, so everyone is stop and go. We are in a traffic jam, so I guess it's also a bit the same situation with 4G and 5G. We actually extend the highway we know for now.
Exactly, and I would say even that we could make a parallel with the autoroute or the motorway, that the slicing would be the extra lane which is only dedicated to the ambulance and so on.
Excellent.
So a bit more complex maybe, but okay.
All right, next slide. So you now presented a bit high level wise the technology, the new 5G, but what about concrete use cases? What about projects we have done so far or we are busy with?
Yes, I can mention one very interesting case. It's on the next slide. It's about power and prediction. So Codit did an implementation around for ENGIE, which is an energy company, renewable energy in Belgium. So it has expanded also across Europe now. The challenge there was the mass quantity of data. So they have plants all over Europe, all over in this case, all over Belgium. And you can see the windmills, you can see the solar panels, and all these collecting tons and billions of messages of data every day. And the challenge here was to not only collect the data, but also to put it somewhere. So how do you transfer that data in an intelligent way, at the speed that you want, without losing also important information? This was about creating better service levels to create less downtime in the supply of these goods, as we call it. So here we used Azure, an IoT platform for this. Yeah, I think that's
okay. That is a good use case. Any
So, okay, thanks for that.
No. Okay, Philip, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, let me go back a few slides. So, we have done already quite a lot on this innovation platform in general. And so this innovation platform has been live since the beginning of the year, actually. And this, I will give you some examples of different things we've done in different industries, because I can't see the audience, but I imagine that there are multiple people from different backgrounds in the audience. And so we'll give some explanations about the cases we did in different sectors. So one of the first thing is, when you talk about 5G, you talk about low latency, and we want to prove that. And so what we did, actually, together with a partner from ours called Phoenix Contact, we deployed Profinet on 5G. And if you're not in industry, you might not know what Profinet is. Profinet is actually an industrial protocol that makes communication between machines possible. And so typically, that communication, that Profinet runs on a wired connection, on an Ethernet connection, because no wireless technology was ever able to get enough low latency to really do it and keep it running for a longer period of time. And so that's exactly what we did here, to be able to control machines actually over a wireless 5G network. And that is a real milestone for Industry 4.0, because it makes the concept of a wireless factory possible, where typically now everything is cabled. If you want to change your production line to produce some other type of material, you need to switch it around, draw extra cables, remove cables, and here it can be done wirelessly. And for the first time, it was actually first time in the world where this could be done. So we're actually quite proud of it, and it was a key milestone for Industry 4.0. Other examples, exactly like a week after that, we in our offices in Belgium, we did a live interview with our CTO, Gert Standaert, and it was done via 360-degree 8K camera over our Proximus 5G network, streamed live to YouTube. And actually quite funny, it wasn't live because YouTube just couldn't handle the amount of data that was coming into their server. So it dropped after 5 minutes because YouTube said, we can't handle this amount of data, because 8K video, 360 degrees is quite some bandwidth that we were sending to them. So we had to re-upload it afterwards because it was just so much data. Another case in real life, this is actually done in Antwerp, Belgium, where we had a partner of ours that has a new construction site. And so what you see here on screen is the shell of a building, a newly built building, where actually the architects and the project leaders of this construction site could follow along with the building construction by using the HoloLens, augmented reality, and 5G. So what is done here is actually that the models, the drawings, are being streamed in real time over our 5G network, our 5G innovation platform in the field, towards these glasses. And these glasses actually need like a connection of 100 megabits per second continuously per glass, so it's quite heavy on traffic, to be able to show the different layers of the building on top of the reality. So in augmented reality, these people can see, for example, the plumbing, the electricity that needs to go everywhere. And so an architect can follow along on site how the building is going on, and if everything is okay, instead of doing it by pictures here, they can add layers as they want to check everything and check that everything is according to schedule. So it adds an augmented layer on top of the reality, and you need to really the 5G high bandwidth connection for this. And also it needs to be low latency enough, because otherwise you turn your head, but if the images in augmented reality don't follow fast enough, then you get quite nauseous. So you really need the high bandwidth, low latency that 5G can offer here. And actually, it's a building shell. There is no Wi-Fi. There is nothing else besides 5G. So it's also the only option here to really do it. This case, Eva already mentioned. So I will skip to the next one. Another interesting case is one that we did in agriculture. And actually, what was the concept here? So we had this a farmer with a cornfield, and actually what they do now is completely spray that field with pesticides everywhere. So that's a lot of work, a lot of pesticides that goes onto the crops we eat. And so nowadays, or actually what we developed is to fly over with a drone, capture those images, and actually detect with artificial intelligence that was run on the edge to detect weeds compared to the actual corn. And actually corn and weeds, they're quite similar actually in leaf structure. So it was quite hard to do for the artificial intelligence, but we succeeded in it anyway. And so out of those images and artificial intelligence, we could create a kind of weed map, and you see it on the third image. You see that certain zones are red, and so you have there high weed concentration. So that means that if you want to use pesticides or to spray the field against weeds, you need to do it in certain zones more heavily than on others. And so in some zones, not even at all. And so by doing this, we could actually reduce the amount of pesticides that went onto this field by 74%, which is enormous in just having a bioproduct, but also the amount of labor and the amount of pesticides that also cost money. If they can be reduced by 74% by using this technology, that's just enormous. So quite an interesting case done in agriculture, but the concept can be used in industry, in public safety. It's the same concept where you use drones, 5G, and artificial intelligence to actually make our lives better or more safer. This is a cool technical demo that we did together with AGC, and you see on screen here this little piece of see-through glass with some connectors on it, and it's actually a new type of antenna, both 5G and Wi-Fi, and we hooked it up to our innovation platform to test it out. And it's actually a new type of antenna for indoor coverage. And so instead of having these ugly antennas, you could just have a window. You wouldn't even see the difference. And that would radiate Wi-Fi or 5G indoors in buildings to get excellent indoor coverage. And that's why we tested it. And then over to Eva.
Okay, yeah, one of my favorite cases. So this is Schreder Electric. Okay, I have a thing here on the other screen. So this is about smart lighting, and the digital transformation also where Codit could support this customer, a long-term customer since way back in time, creating smarter cities, lighting in the cities, public areas, streets, tunnels, etc. And it was about predicting what could happen under certain conditions in these places, and also to be able to feed information to the operators managing these different public sites or streets, roads, tunnels, etc. So it's all about sensors also, collecting a lot of data from cameras, from weather, temperature, traffic information, etc. And having a platform here where this data can be easily integrated and accessible from the different partners, And also, again, having the prediction, the intelligence around predicting things on that data, and to be able to feed back to the operators for prevention purposes, operational purposes, to change if there is something that should be changed before things are happening, traffic, lights on the street, etc. Also here, based on Azure, some edge computing also. Very, very good case that we're proud of.
Thanks, Eva. And which city is it actually that already started in Belgium, right?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly,
Belgium.
yeah.
Thank you.
So then let me take over again. So during COVID, actually, like everyone knows, a concert or something similar was not, available. We could not go to concerts, and actually, what we did is we came up with this mini concert that we did at our premises, where a Belgian artist named Konoba was actually performing in a different remote area in one of the concert halls in Belgium, and we streamed that concert in 360 degrees over 5G towards our own location, and we offered that in virtual reality to our employees and visitors to come experience, to have a COVID-free and COVID-safe virtual reality concert of one of the famous artists in Belgium. And this is also an interesting case. It's actually a partner of ours that is developing this cleaning robot. And actually, the 5G connection here is used just in general, gather the information and show the cleaning crew where it's been cleaned or not. But also, this vehicle normally drives on its own. But when it detects something that it can't clean, or an obstacle, for example, that he does not know, with his edge-trained AI, then he sends over a video stream to the cloud and sends over analytics for them to do cloud processing of that data, and to then get downlink a new and improved AI model to clean separate halls. So it's actually a hybrid connectivity where it's only used when needed, but when needed, you can send over with wide coverage the data that you need to improve the trained models for such a cleaning robot that drives on its own without any intervention. And we see that same concept actually, because this is a basic concept, but we actually now see that same concept with where the need of hybrid 5G connectivity is needed in, for example, railways, where actually the vehicle could drive on its own, but when an unsafe situation is detected, actually someone could take over from remote using the stable, reliable, and low latency connection that 5G can offer across the country. So that's why that hybrid connectivity is really interesting, to only use it when needed, but it's there when you need it.
Nice.
Over to you, Eva.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is also coded, really leveraging on data to help us all not to be perturbated when traveling. This is not what we want. Business traveling or private traveling, you do not want to lose your luggage. So we helped out in Charles de Gaulle and some other airports also to identify luggage and the containers that are placed on the little trailers, the small cars moving around quite at some speed also in the airports, with an RFID, quickly to be able to identify where is a particular bag or container, luggage in general. And even at a speed of 30 kilometers per hour, it can be identified and controlled so that this airport in particular could reach a better customer satisfaction and also employee satisfaction thanks to this collection of data. So there are many, many things that are business value creating.
And Eva, one question from my side, I guess, for instance, this use case you just mentioned, so the airport correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess such projects mostly starts with one ID, one use cases, and when we reach a quick win, success story, I guess, then the customer might start thinking about extending this technology and project to other needs, no?
Yes, yes, indeed. Often we start, it depends on the customer. We have concrete business cases already done at the client side. So then we jump in where it's needed, if it's staff enforcement or competence enforcement, but there is a strategy. But we also have proof of concepts, proof of values to show low-hanging fruit, starts very small. Because of course, also with the intelligence, it's easy to get scared off for some people. And this is not what this is doing. This is really complementing the human reinforcement that we have already and competence, especially at the particular areas. So indeed, a low-hanging fruit, proof of concepts, proof of values, and then we move on.
Clear enough, thank you. Maybe a question more related to the network equipment. Do we know exactly or already which brand we are going to use as antenna, as network equipment, or is it still an open discussion?
Well, from a 5G point of view, we have a lot of vendors which are now moving ahead with developing devices which are 5G compatible. Most of them are non-standalone compatible, like the different iPhones or Samsung and so on. They are starting now also to develop standalones, and from an enterprise point of view, we have a lot of gateways which are now able to connect to a 5G standalone network, which are basically the one enabling the connection of the different sensors towards the 5G network. So there are a lot of cases, a lot of devices which are coming onto the market, and there are a lot of efforts also with the Belgian colleagues to certify those devices on the different networks, so either on the public network or on specific innovation platform network.
Okay, thank you.
Indeed, and we actually have had a lot of customers that have requested us to test one of the devices they were interested in before we get going and do a larger case, to actually test that every feature they want to see on that device is present and works well with the network. So you always have that in a new type of technology where not everything works from day one, and we pre-test that for our customers. And we have tested that way many devices already in the market in different form factors for different cases as well.
Thanks, Philippe. We can, I think, go to the next slide.
Okay, it's actually an interesting case, and some of you may already have seen it. This is a concept, and I believe some of our colleagues will talk more about it in a different session as well. Is where you can have this kind of smart glasses on your head in industry, in public safety, or in other cases, and it actually enables you to, for example, set up a Teams call with one of your colleagues while you are in the field, and actually that colleague or remote expert can see through the camera of the smart glasses what you see, and can, for example, draw on your vision a certain arrow to show you what you need to do. So this is being used to navigate documents, get remote assistance if you don't know what to do, or calling assistance from an expert, that expert being remote. And that way you don't need to send different experts to a certain location to troubleshoot. And if, for example, a certain machine is down and you need an expert that's located in a different city, and with COVID, of course, that was harder to do, you could just follow along. Someone could go there and different experts could jump in to assist and get the machine back up and running. So this is done in industry, but we also see it more and more popping up in the healthcare sector. And let me jump first to the next slide. So this is actually the same case, but done in healthcare, where actually newly trained doctors are following along with the procedure from remote to get trained, and then this specialist can actually take pictures, film make a voiceover on it, all done hands-free, and other people can follow along from a distance. But it was also used during COVID times to, for example, send one person into a restricted zone and or within the hospital and let others actually see from remote.
Yes, and indeed, Philip, I guess remote assistance in this case, surgery is a quite, let's say, important technology that needs to be up and running at any time, and latency is not acceptable because, of course, if you have an open heart and we are working on it, it's not acceptable that we don't get the data in real time. So 5G is definitely the only solution to allow this.
Yeah, so indeed, 5G provides just that, and also the wide area coverage and the flexibility, because you don't want a cable sticking out of this or be connected with a wire. And also, if you're, for example, in industry on a large site, yeah, the coverage just needs to be there everywhere where you need it, when you need it, and that's just what 5G brings. 5G brings again and again. It's like fiber-like speeds, but just wireless. It gives you the same experience, and that's what we all need for our business. And then another example in healthcare is where now we're connecting these ambulances with 5G connectivity to actually monitor patients while they are in the ambulance and send those real-time analytics from that patient already to the emergency services so they can better prepare. And also, in most cases, there is also a camera equipment connected to this 5G connectivity to get assistance from remote. Or same story like before. For example, the person that drives the ambulance in some hospitals, at least in Belgium, is not medically trained. And then when the situation escalates, you can just get assistance from the hospital, from remote, from a medically trained specialist to actually save the patient in the field. So this is quite simple but quite powerful stuff that enhances the safety and the well-being of everyone.
And Philip, to come back on this connected ambulance, for instance, so that is also a topic to be tackled. What about the data management? Who is going to manage those data? So the 5G innovation platform, is it Proximus or is it, for instance, the end customer, so the hospital, since there are certainly medical secrets to be respected?
So in this case, we manage the network, but also the devices that are used and the interconnections between the ambulance and the hospital to make it all secure. That's what we do, and we do it as a managed service. And we started out doing this. It started as an innovation project, and now we're really seeing to scale it up and to industrialize it, because we had already gotten the question from multiple hospitals to do something similar for them. So it started out as innovation. We managed everything, and now more and more customers are coming onto it, and so we need to industrialize and make it scalable for everyone. And mainly, then I'm talking about the IT security that those hospitals have to integrate it completely. And so for that, like you already told you about the different needs that are there next to the 5G to really make full IT integration, make it secure, do some cloud analytics for some cases where you need other competence that are available in the group at Telindus or Codit to make it all happen.
Okay, thank you, Philip.
So, and to wrap up, one last case. We're doing this as we speak with one customer, and it's actually the use of machines or robots that you can actually steer from remote. And in this case, this little robot drives around in an unmanned site and actually does the inspection for you. So what is the idea? It can detect dangerous emissions in an industrial plant. It gives you telepresence at a remote site, so you don't need to go there. But it also has the capability to drive along and digitize via machine vision some analog assets that you have. For example, this little gauge that you see on the screen, it's a pressure gauge. You find them in an industrial plant on different places, and actually, normally someone goes there to inspect that everything goes well in the production. Here, it can be automated, and so this little robot takes a picture of it, digitizes it, reads out the measurements, and so digitizes an analog resource for you, all done without any human intervention. And so we're now starting out here with this case, but we already want to show it to you to give you some more examples.
You did good, indeed.
Yeah, maybe a word about the use case we have seen here. There are some flavor of them which are available on our booth, so feel free to join us at the Telindus and Tango booth downstairs. And you'll see also a robot which is not as such dedicated to the explosive areas, or at least I hope. But we have one which is today in demo. We have also some facilities to demonstrate the construction area with cranes and so on. And last but not least, with HoloLens, we show some models of construction where everything is rendered in the cloud and then connected to the HoloLens, so that the user and the guy who wears the HoloLens is able to play with the building model, which has been developed for the demonstration. Right, so maybe we have shown that we are able to do a lot of things with that platform. We have told you also that it's not only about 5G, it's much wider than that, but still remains the question how to start, and basically where to start, not only how to. And that's mainly the purpose of this presentation, and that's, I don't know if we have managed to have a climax until the end, but now it's basically, we want to explain you how we see the future of the collaboration with the different entities who wants to do some proof of concept related to their innovation. And that's basically what we call our innovation platform and the process which comes along. So maybe we can go to the next slide. And that's mainly the 5 steps which enable, let's say, the co-creation process. So first of all, once again, I cannot read from there, even if I had a good view. But
so the first point is evaluate 5G use case IDs.
Yeah, that's right. So in end effect, based on the subjects we need to discuss with the entity who wants to make a proof of concept, we need to evaluate if it's feasible and what would be the resources and the effort to enable that and to make it live. So we have to explore several ideas. We have to pick one, at least one which makes sense for you. We then have to see if we have to test devices, or if maybe you can use some from an existing catalog, which are already pre-tested devices on 5G networks, especially standalone network. And what we are used to say is we need to go fast, because innovation is about failing, but if we fail, we need to fail fast. So therefore, we somehow put some timing, about 3 months. Of course, we need to discuss if all in all, everything is possible and within that time frame. But we need also to fix some boundaries so that we are able to meet some requirement, but also to have some key success factor defined, and in order to monitor the progress and monitor the result of the project, of the innovation project. And of course, last but not least, but this project or this innovation platform is there to enable us and you to learn together about your pain point and the way to solve them, and see how 5G could play a role. So I don't know, Philippe, if you want to add some stuff related to what I just said.
Indeed, so that 3-month period is there mainly to keep momentum. Otherwise, it goes slow. There is no commitment from anyone. So actually, in this process, we ask our customers if we want to do this together. Okay, assign certain spokes, and let's define a certain period. Let's scope it out technically and start doing it, and actually we put a 3-month period to just have a target date to work to and really proceed on a fast pace. And so here again, by doing this, you actually gain experience in 5G and also adjacent technologies that are relevant for your sector. And actually you can use this experience to, for example, if you're interested in a private network, to see what kind of flavor would be ideal for you or what you exactly need out of the technology. So, and that's nowadays what but not that many customers have already gained experience, and is very needed in the future.
Thank you, Philippe. One other question, quite interesting also, that pops up from the virtual audience, and I think it is more related to you. The question is, what about 5G abroad? And so indeed, especially talking about 5G, if I'm not mistaken, Luxembourg belongs to the top 5 countries in Europe with the best mobile network. And so the question is indeed, what about Germany, France, and Belgium, in order to allow most of us are living abroad, to allow to the 5G to work properly, especially with slicing?
Yeah. Okay, so about slicing, it's a bit too early. There are some discussion going on, but first the slices need to be defined. But we have already on our mobile network already roaming agreement on all technologies, including 5G, with the neighboring countries, so Belgium, Germany, and France as well. Of course, not in every country there is a 5G spot just abroad and just beside the border. But if you would catch 5G on Orange Business in France or in Vodafone in Germany, the roaming agreement are there. So you are able to have a 5G experience also abroad. But of course, as you mentioned, in Luxembourg, we have been granted the frequencies already last year. The network are not going live. So we are covering the city, and we have mentioned that by end of 2022, all the country will be covered. So yeah, we are maybe a little bit ahead, but maybe also our country is a bit smaller than our bigger neighbor.
Fair enough, thanks. We can go ahead with the next slide, I think.
Yeah, basically this is all about the same. It's about more in detail the process and the expectation we have from this innovation process, and where we need to make sure we have the good start in order to have the good end. So you see that the main points are at the beginning of the project, where we have to define what are basically the success criteria, what are the real use case we want to test, what are basically the killer app for you in order to enable a bright future. And in the end, we need to evaluate the results. So more in detail, and maybe Philippe can also give comments because of the process which is followed as well by our mother company here in
Yeah. So indeed, so the most critical part in this whole process is actually the number one. When you brainstorm about the different 5G use cases, typically our customers have wild ideas on things they want to realize or test out. And so what we do at that stage is to also show the status of 5G, different technical capabilities. We try to make that easy to understand, and then to work together towards one very interesting case for them, where the technology is ready, because some technology might be come later on, or is not ready yet in the ecosystem, or is not standardized. And so we're trying to find a fit into what is available, what can be done, and what is very interesting or the top priority for the company to then really do it. And to do it, of course, you need devices, and you get access to our list of pre-tested devices that you can leverage to not have to worry about that on the 5G connectivity side. And you get help from our different departments that bring the edge, cloud, etc. capabilities, but also the network engineers to make it all happen, and the full support on the full chain to realize something like this on a short period of time. So it's really bringing all the capabilities together, fully leveraged for you, even maybe if you have 5G coverage on your own premises, to really do this kind of project on a short period and gain an immense amount of value out of it. And in the end, you have your 5G experience, you have your use case validated, you have a better view on where you want to go, where you want to, if you want to do an investment in a private network, and what kind of flavor or not, what you will need. And so with that experience, you can go into or do certain strategic investments for the future of your company. that's always the idea.
Clear enough. Thank you very much, Philippe. We can go to the next one. I think we almost reached, yes, we almost reached the end. So am I correct if I would summarize actually the 5G in 4 points? Correct me if I'm wrong. So we have a higher bandwidth, better speed. You mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, 10 times better than 4G. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Very low latency. In a lot of devices connected at the same time, / no limitation of devices connected at the same time per square meter. And last but not least, indeed, the ability of slicing, so to make sure that one part of the connectivity will be dedicated to a certain service in case it is needed.
Yes, right, exactly. And sometimes people may ask why we need 5G. If we have 4G, we speak about the bandwidth and so on, but we also have Wi-Fi network almost everywhere. So why 5G? Basically because 5G is built in as a cellular network, meaning it wants to enable mobility. Wi-Fi is wireless technology, so it removes the cable, but it doesn't give you mobility. The 5G is built in order to send and to transport tremendous amount of data in a really minimum of time with a small latency and allow really mobility. And there are some studies which have been done in different areas of stockage, I don't know how we say that, storage, voila. And we see, for example, that the autonomous guided vehicles are much more efficient on 5G network than on Wi-Fi networks. And on top, you have more efficiency. The network deployment of a Wi-Fi network is more expensive because you need more antennas. So the business model of having AGVs in storage areas is, for example, better in 5G than in Wi-Fi. So keep that in mind, and Wi-Fi is local, like in building, but 5G will be everywhere. So if you need 5G with the, don't think that you need 5G, but don't just think about mobility and make yes, let's say your eyes open to the world of possibilities of going everywhere connected.
Thanks, you. So anyone would have a question on that? Mr. Hustadt, you have a question? No. Was it clear? Perfect. Do you want to add anything else? Philippe, maybe? We still have time.
No, I think.
Okay, otherwise, as you might see in the upper right corner on the last slide deck, we have a dedicated email address. So please feel free to use and reuse this email address for all demands of meetings, of more explanation, or also for proof of concept, for instance. Use it and reuse it, share it with who you want. We are really looking forward to get all your demands via this channel. And again, thank you very much for your attention and your presence for this session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.